This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Some would call me a video producer, and that is what I've been calling myself for the last around 10 years. And there are a few things I've learned from doing this for so long.
I'm someone you can trust, Anne. I'm a movie producer.
These tips may not be exactly what you would expect, because this is how we all imagine being a video producer. We think you're the overall manager of a production. You manage the budget. You speak with the client. You manage the whole production team. You manage logistics.
I'm gonna take care of you.
All of that is still true, but there are a lot of little things that go into the job that you may not know. And that is why we're here today, so that you don't get up. Because I'm here for you. You won't know these things unless I tell you, or unless you work at another video production company for 2 years and hate your life like I did, but that's a story for another day. Actually, that's a story that I already recorded a video on, and you can go watch it here. Here's my first tip. My first tip is to always have a contract. Now, this may seem kind of self-explanatory because contracts are an essential part of any job, but here's what having a contract does for you. It's about ensuring that you are protected through every stage of the project, and I say you as in your production company or your production or your team is protected the entire way through your production. And so honestly, it's so that your client is aware of all these terms up front and it doesn't get uncomfortable or sour the experience as your production goes on.
We have him under contract. He can't do anything.
And this kind of leads me into my second point, which is over-organize. Like having a contract, I'm sure this is something you've heard time and time again, but not only is it important to be organized for your sake, it's also important to be organized just for ease of production and to make your client's life easier too. The fewer ways that you allow for things to go wrong, the better your production's gonna be. The more likely it is that you'll be hired again, the happier your client is going to be, and the fewer fires you will have to put out. Now, what do I mean by being over-organized? Now, that doesn't necessarily just mean knowing where your files are at all times or backing up your footage twice. Those are important, so don't forget to do that too. But it means knowing the numbers in your budget off the back of your hand. It means knowing what you've told the client and sticking to it. It means knowing all of your crew information. It means knowing all of the logistics around your production, like what locations you're going to, who's managing that location. Being the manager of production is a big job, but being organized and having your paperwork on standby, having 1,000 forms that were really tedious to prepare beforehand, but you have available to you on set and in post is going to make not just your life easier, it's going to make a smoother production. Just when you think this piece of paperwork isn't necessary, or calling this person and double checking this isn't necessary, yes it is. Here's your motivation. You are the nagging mom that's going, brush your teeth. Did you brush your teeth? Have you brushed your teeth yet? Are you in your pajamas? Are you ready for bed? You don't look like you're in your pajamas. You have 3 minutes to get into your pajamas, or you won't be able to wake up on time tomorrow.
Stop nagging me!
That is you, but the production version.
You enjoying this video? Cool. Couple things I'm gonna ask you to do then. 1, maybe subscribe to my channel. 2, listen to me talk about Squarespace for a minute. Thanks. I used Squarespace to make my website. I legitimately did, even before they paid me to do this ad. The template I chose was clean and stylish, and I literally built it myself. I really struggle with design, but Squarespace made it super easy for me to showcase my portfolio beautifully. The platform is super easy for me to customize, update regularly, and I can get analytics about the purchases made on my digital products through my online store. And I run my own business, so I don't have time to learn a whole new platform. All right, so head over to Squarespace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can use this code right here to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks, Squarespace. Now back to the video.
So let's talk about having a schedule, but not just a regular schedule. We're talking about a workback schedule, because if you can't tell by the theme of the first 2 tips in this video so far, it's just another way to protect yourself and to manage client expectations. Are you following? These are things that you need to do. Okay, so a workback schedule, if you've never heard of one before, that means you've never watched any of my videos, but it's fine, we'll deal with that later. Having a workback schedule is essentially laying out everything that needs to happen during production, from pre-production to production to post-production, every little thing that needs to happen. When are you booking crew? When are you sending scripts to your client? When is your client getting back to you with those script revisions? When are you booking a location? When are you confirming the location? When is script locked? When are you finalizing talent? When are you finalizing the contracts for talent? How long are we on set that day? You know, all of those little things get put into a schedule and you can send it to your client and they can approve it, and now everybody knows when things are happening. So this not only makes your life easier because you know what you're doing on every day of the week, because literally you've planned out the next few months of your life, but your client is also held accountable. So you can't fall behind schedule unless your client falls behind schedule. And if you're falling behind schedule, first of all, you shouldn't, so don't, because you want to be able to blame everything on them because you've done your due diligence. Get it? So having a workback schedule is necessary for every production, not just the big productions, not just when they're paying the most. This is an essential part, in my opinion, of every single production, no matter how big or how small, because this is one of the main reasons that there are miscommunications between you and the client.
We're having some kind of miscommunication here, but we'll work it out.
I already know that some people disagree with me on this because I've mentioned this in a previous video and some people feel differently, but it hasn't changed my opinion. I stick to this and I think I'm right. You need to have clear defined roles on set. And as the producer, it's your job to make sure that everyone understands their clearly defined role on set. And most importantly, who is speaking to the client? Whose job is it to communicate what's happening or address any issues on set so that there are no miscommunications? Again, the theme here is no miscommunications with the client, because as far as the client knows, everything is great all of the time. Never let them think otherwise. Got it? The more clearly defined your roles are on set, the more smoothly your production will run, because everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and when they have a problem, they know who to go to help them work on that problem. And then everyone on set will know that you as the producer, or whoever is on set as the on-set producer that day, is the person who communicates to the client. You don't really want someone from your lighting team communicating things to the client, because you can't manage what happens in that conversation. The person from the lighting team doesn't know what you've communicated to the client, and that may not make complete sense to them because your client doesn't know anything about video production, okay? They just know what they want it to look like, they know what they've paid for, they know who they're trying to please, and usually it's higher ups or other people on set. You are the one who gets to manage all of those expectations as the producer. So you want the rest of your team coming to you, and you are the person that then digests everything and explains it to your client.
I'm the captain, and you're the navigator.
Tip number 5, assume nothing. When you walk onto that set, don't assume, because you know what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me, because you're sitting in this video, listening to this, and you should know this now. If you didn't know it before, you know it now.
You don't know the first thing about me, pal.
Making assumptions is like, you know those moments when you're writing a script or you're making a plan for something on shoot day and you go, well, I don't think that should be a problem. That shouldn't be an issue. I don't think they'll mind. I can't see why they would have a problem with it. All of those things are assumptions. And if that is a sentence you're saying out loud or saying in your head, it means that should be a conversation, because you really don't know until you ask. It's always safer to ask so that you don't get in trouble, and that makes your client happy. And then they call you again because they're happy. You're welcome.
Oh my God, this is great.
Number 6, and this is something I see a lot, not even just in production, but just in daily life, and that's a rant for another day, but you need to have a solution-oriented mindset. What people tend to do when a problem arises is they look for someone to blame. And oftentimes as a producer, it's not always your fault. It might be something else that happened on set, or it might be completely out of your control.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
But what you need to do is find a solution calmly, swiftly, and sometimes without even the client knowing there was an issue. And if you have to bring it to their attention, just have the confidence to tell them that everything is fine and you have it handled. And it doesn't make the client feel any better for you to go to them and say, hey, that's so-and-so's fault. There's nothing I could do about it. Take responsibility. You're the one managing the production. It is always your fault because you're the one standing in front of the client. So it's your job to fix it. It's your job to find the solution and to do it with a smile on your face and in the most swift way humanly possible. So you want to analyze the situation to identify what proactive measures could have prevented the problem in the first place and implement those going forward. Number 7 is having a positive attitude. And there is a certain attitude that you'll find most producers have, especially the ones that are client facing. And this is a huge part of the process because there are studies that have proven if someone likes you, they are more willing to hire you again. Your attitude and your general demeanor, especially if you're client facing and even in working with a team, does make a huge difference. So how are you going to have an appropriate attitude as a producer? Well, the first thing is to maintain a positive and confident demeanor no matter the situation. Your attitude towards something potentially stressful is going to dictate how everyone else feels around you, and if it's the client, it's going to affect how the client feels about the issue too, because if you're standing in front of them panicking, they're gonna panic too. So showing up, having a good attitude, being excited to see everyone on set. If something goes wrong, no big deal, we're gonna figure it out. Here's how we're gonna figure it out. Act like you know what you're doing, even if you don't necessarily know. And even on YouTube here, sometimes I think, hey, I am nervous or I don't feel like doing this today, and yet I do it anyways and seem confident about it.
Well, it looks like it's gonna be another great weekend.
Oh, something else that drives me absolutely bananas that most people do, but if you're in a professional sense, and especially when you're talking to a client, don't do this. So a lot of us in production, and if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're a fairly young human being, people say like all the time, and so do I. But don't say it in front of your client. Remove it from your vocabulary. It makes you sound dumb. It makes you sound young. It makes you sound like you don't actually know what you're doing, and it's not even something that people register that you're saying and go, oh, well, they said like a lot, so I won't trust them. It's a very subconscious thing that that you should really implement if you want to be taken seriously. And especially for someone like me, who I don't know if you're watching this or know how old I am, I'm actually 30 years old and people think I'm a lot younger than I normally am. But removing like from my vocabulary at least makes me seem like I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not 12. Moving on.
And then they say, good job. Like I'm like a fucking toddler who just learned how to use the toilet.
Number 8 is understanding the client. And that goes much further than just speaking the same language as them. Understanding means a level of empathy. It means a level of actively listening to what your client's needs are and sharing that same motivation with them. Making your client feel understood and supported builds trust and makes them feel like you have just as much stake in the game as they do, and you're both committed to creating a successful final product. Being able to tap into some of their concerns or their needs shows that you're aligned with their vision. It makes them feel like, oh, okay, you get it. I'm not the only one arguing from my perspective at this point. You're not just taking my money and running away and making whatever you want with it. We are on the same page. You care just as much as I do. And the value in that is often underestimated, I think, by production teams. Being able to show that level of care, that level of understanding, and also being able to reframe things and make your client feel like it's their idea can really help too. And that kind of leads into my next point, which is client communication and how to reframe things in a way that your client will understand. The client only needs to know what they need to know. And if you've watched any of my previous videos about my budget and estimate template and a little bit on quoting, this becomes abundantly clear in that respect. So a budget is for you, it's internal, it's something that you're using to track all these little dollar amounts, but an estimate is the version of that your client sees. It's kind of a master summary. It gives the client everything they need to know. It lets them know where their money is going on, a bigger scope, but it doesn't get into each individual nitty-gritty cost because they don't know what a C-sand is. They don't know what all these little purchases are. They don't know what a gaffer is. There's no reason that you need to give them a full budget. An estimate is just fine. And that's kind of what you're doing throughout the entire length of production. You're not giving them the budget. You're not giving them all those individual little details, but you do need to reframe what's happening in an estimate format. You do need to reframe everything in a way that the client will understand and in a way that they can make an informed decision. So there's a level of understanding, there's a level of organization, there's a level of, don't assume, and then there's this version of everything that you need to kind of translate for the client to allow them to understand and to make informed decisions. And it also gives you some control over what the client thinks is happening and allows them to feel like everything is seamless and it's a great production no matter what little fires you're putting out behind the scenes.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Number 10 is prepare for the worst, but present the best. So as I said, in terms of client communication, you need to do your best to make sure that everything is fine. Obviously, not everything is going to be fine all of the time, but it is in your control to foresee issues that could come up, prepare for them, and have backup plans if possible. Your job as a producer is to constantly put out fires. In addition to all of your regular roles, you are the one managing everything. You are the one that people are going to come to with most of their issues. You need to be solution-oriented. You need to have that positive attitude. You need to have that mindset that you can totally accomplish that and be able to communicate whatever happened to your client if necessary. So when you're looking at the scope of your production, look for those little holes where things could potentially fall apart. Have a backup plan, or at least know how you're gonna fix the problem if it arises.
Everything's under control, situation normal.
So these may seem like not a big deal. These may seem like things that aren't tangible things that you can implement and have a free download to fix your problems immediately or purchase something that'll again solve all your problems immediately. No, these are things that you're gonna have to look inwards and fix from, a personality and just the general way that you carry yourself on set. And that's a lot harder. Trust me when I say that these are extremely important. These are things that I have incorporated into my process over the last 10 years and I think are the reason that I've gotten to where I am today. If you want to, feel free to write these tips down maybe in a little list in your phone, so when you're on set or when you're going through your next production, you can review these and see if you're implementing them, and eventually it'll become second nature. But for now, maybe having a list handy will help you out. If you guys like this video, please give it a like down below, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell to get notified for all future videos. And I will see you in the next one, and good luck video producing, because it's tough out there, guys.
Well, let's have a drink and forget about it.
All right.
Cheers.